All right, let's get right into this one. It's a modern maritime mystery. I mean, it all kicks off with this empty yacht just drifting in the middle of the open ocean. This story has been a real head-scratcher for investigators and sailors for years. We're talking about a true ghost ship, but from our own century. So can you imagine? Those are the very first thoughts from the rescue officer who was literally winched down from a helicopter onto the deck of this boat. This was the Kaz II, a catamaran just floating aimlessly near Australia's Great Barrier Reef back in April 2007. And believe me, what he found when he landed on that deck, it only made the mystery a whole lot deeper.
Yeah, the scene was it was so bizarre. On one hand, it seemed strangely normal, but at the same time, it was completely wrong. It was so weird that people immediately started comparing it to that legendary ghost ship, the Mary Celeste. But this wasn't some old sea story. Nope, this was happening right now, a modern mystery unfolding before everyone's eyes.
So what did they find? Well, it was a total contradiction. You've got all these signs of everyday life. The engine was still idling, a laptop was on, food was literally set on the table. It's like the crew just vanished in the middle of a sentence. But then you see this one shredded sail, and that hints at some kind of chaos. And of course, the biggest, most glaring thing, there was absolutely no one there, not a soul.
So the big question is, who were these guys who just disappeared from their own boat? To even begin to understand what might have gone down, we need to rewind. Let's go back to the start of their trip.
Okay, so the crew, it was three guys. You had the skipper, Des Batten, and two brothers who were his neighbors, Peter and James Tunstead. People who knew them just said they were typical Aussie blokes. Now, they weren't exactly seasoned sailors, pretty inexperienced actually, but they were so excited. This was supposed to be the big one, the adventure of a lifetime.
And look at how fast this all happened. It's actually terrifying. They leave on April 15th. Just 3 days later, the boat is seen just drifting out there. And by the 21st, that's it. After a huge search, they officially call it off. All hope is gone. Think about that. It's such a tiny window of time for a dream trip to just become this massive, unsolved mystery. Incredibly, we actually have a glimpse into their final known moments, thanks to their own video camera. The footage shows what looks like a totally normal morning at sea, right? Des is at the helm, James is fishing off the back, but when you look closer, there were these little clues, these hints of danger. The water's pretty choppy, for one, and, crucially, none of the men are wearing life jackets. They even say something on the video about threatening skies up ahead. Okay, so the men are gone, the yacht is back at the dock. Now the real work begins for investigators, trying to piece together what in the world happened out there in the middle of the Coral Sea. And get this, the boat wasn't just off the coast. It was found 88 nautical miles out. That is way, way out there. So the forensic teams get to work. They comb over every single inch of that yacht. But what they found, and maybe even more important, what they didn't find, was just a total head-scratcher. So right away, investigators started crossing off the most dramatic theories. The police were really clear about this. The boat was not a crime scene. There were no signs of a fight, no blood, nothing to suggest anyone besides the three crew members had ever been on board. So, okay, if it wasn't a crime, then what was it? And that lack of evidence, well, that's what really sent everyone's imagination into overdrive. And you know how it goes. The theories that started popping up were all over the map. I mean, from things that made perfect sense to stuff that was, well, way out there. Everybody, from the police to people on the internet, was trying to crack the case of the Kaz II. All right, let's break down how the official investigation looked at these theories. So, foul play. Was it possible? I mean, there were knives on the floor, the fenders were out, some people thought maybe another boat pulled up alongside them, but then the police looked closer. No signs of a struggle. All their wallets and valuables were still there. So, okay, probably not foul play. How about they staged it? For insurance money or something? Nope. Investigators checked their finances, and there was zero motive for that. So after ruling those out, you're really left with one big theory. It was some kind of tragic, bizarre accident. Of course, the public had other ideas. The imagination just went wild, right? We're talking pirates, drug smugglers, even paranormal stuff, or a sea monster.
It makes for a great movie, for sure. But the official investigation, they looked into all of it and found absolutely nothing. Zero to back up any of those wilder theories.
So where did that leave them? Well, after a 4-day inquest, after they talked to all the witnesses and experts, the coroner in Queensland came forward with the official explanation. And it wasn't some single big explosive event. Instead, they believe it was a tragic, fatal chain reaction. Basically, a cascade of pure, awful bad luck. Now, to really get what the coroner was saying, you have to understand what a man overboard situation is actually like. It is not like falling into your backyard swimming pool. Think about it. You're in choppy seas. The boat is still moving, even slowly. Trying to get back on board by yourself is considered pretty much impossible. So the coroner laid out this really detailed step-by-step scenario of what probably happened. It starts with something simple. One brother, James, is trying to get a fishing lure untangled and he falls in. Then his brother Peter, who, get this, couldn't swim, jumps in after him to try and help. The skipper, Des, sees this. He rushes to drop the sails so he can turn the boat around. But just as he does that, a sudden gust of wind catches the sail, and that big, heavy boom swings violently across the deck and knocks him into the water too. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, all of them are in the water, and they have to watch as their boat just sails away from them. And that's the thing. Once that first domino fell, that chain reaction, there was basically no stopping it. The coroner himself said it. The boat would have been gone, totally out of their reach, in just a matter of seconds. And in those choppy seas with no life jackets on, well, the end would have been incredibly fast. So, the coroner's verdict. It's the most logical, the most plausible explanation we have for what happened to those 3 men. It makes sense. But there is one last really haunting fact that just keeps this case from ever feeling completely 100% closed. And this is it. This is what makes the story so haunting. Despite a massive search, both air and sea, not a single trace of Des, Peter, or James was ever found. Not one. And without them, you can never be absolutely certain. All you have is the most likely story. And so that's what we're left with, right? This really profound and honestly unsettling question. When the sea is the only witness, can a mystery like this ever really be solved? It's just this stark reminder of how powerful the ocean is and how terrifyingly thin that line is between the trip of a lifetime and a total disaster.